Welcome back. Before I get into my video, I want to talk about the Vietnamese currency because once in a while I would mention the cost of certain items that I'm buying. So it's important to know or to equate the Vietnamese currency with the US dollars or US currency, or if you use any other currency, then with the known the US currency, you can convert that to your country. Okay, here is the Vietnamese currency denomination. I'm going to start with the smallest. The smallest one is 2000. 2000 right now the rate, the exchange rate between the dollar, US dollar, and the Vietnamese dong, it's called Vietnamese dong. It doesn't say it on here, but it's right here. Vietnamese dong, D-O-N-G. Okay, so the exchange rate currently, it's about 23,000. If you go to the bank, it's 23,500 Vietnamese dong to $1. So, okay, starting with the smallest denomination, the 2000. Okay, you have 2000. There's a 1000, and there's also a 500 and 200, but hardly anybody used it. 500 and 200. The most used, the 1000, 2000 Vietnamese dong, D-O-N-G. Okay, and the next is 10,000, and then 20,000. Okay, 20,000, 50,000. See that 50,000, the dong, D-O-N-G right there. See the word D-O-N-G there. Okay, and 100,000, and there's a 200,000. I don't have it. It's either like similar to this color or slightly green, and so, but it's a bigger size than the 100,000, and the biggest denomination is 500,000. Okay, 500. That when you translate that means 500,000. Okay, this is the biggest denomination, Vietnamese currency denomination. So from 2,000 all the way to 5,000. I mean, all the way to 500,000. So it seems like a lot, but if you do the math, $1 is about 23,400, about 23,300, 400 Vietnamese dong for $1. So do the math, okay? This is they've changed the currency a few times. It used to be like paper. I mean, this type of money, but it rips so easy. So they could. I think New Zealand New Zealand, they print the money for them, or they use the New Zealand technology. Money printing, so they added this mylar, this mylar right here, and the paper lasts longer in the rain. If it gets wet, it would last longer than the old style of currency. The new style currency, it would last longer with the mylar film or mylar protection. Okay, so especially when it gets wet. This is, after 1975 currency, of course. Before 1975, the currency looks different. After 1975, they added Ho Chi Minh, the picture of Ho Chi Minh on it. Okay, so on all the bills. This one too. So before 1975, it was different. It would look different, and I can tell you a lot of story about the currency because I used to live, in Vietnam before 1975, so I know a little bit about the currency, the evolution of currency in Vietnam. Okay, so back then, up before 1975, it was different. The currency looks different. The money looks different. And then after 1975, after the war, the money, they converted over. They modified the currency, to look up the currency, and between 1975, 1980, 1979, they've changed the currency several times. I remember they changed them several times, and this wasn't the original money back during 1975, 1979, because I left the country back then, but then, anyways, now this is what it looks like now. And before, we didn't have the 500,000, we didn't even have 50,000 back then, even 20,000 back like 10, 20 years. I don't know how long ago, but way back, we didn't even have 10,000. Back when I remember, when I was a kid, so I remember we didn't even have 10,000. The highest denomination that I remember was $500, 500 Vietnamese dong. So my parent used to give me a 500 Vietnamese dong. My mom used to give me 500 Vietnamese dong and 200 Vietnamese dong to go to school, so I can spend it on snacks and food and whatnot. That was the highest denomination that I remember. So certainly, we didn't have the 10,000 Vietnamese dong back then, back in my day. So now everything's gone up. So I don't know with the inflation, everything's gone up. So they have to print a higher denomination bills. But really, for 20,000 is less than $1. This is equivalent to like 90 cents. If you do the math, it's about, 90 cents, 85 cents. So this is about $2 or $2.25 if you do the math. I'm just roughly doing the math here, because so it looks a lot, but it's actually not much. So 50,000 is equivalent to $2 and maybe 25 cents or 30 cents. Okay, so this is about $4.50. Okay, US dollar, $4.50 US. Okay, so now they came up with this because it's better to carry this than to carry a bunch of smaller denomination bills. So you want the 500,000 in your pocket. Okay, not the 2,000. So for foreigner, if you come over here, when you pay someone, make sure you check the bill before you hand them the bill. Check to make sure it's the correct amount, because what happened is a lot of tourists sometimes they would give the wrong bill or denomination because they get confused. So I would suggest that a larger bill, separate the larger bill from the smaller bill. So you don't want to mix them together because you may grab the wrong bill. And so you would want to separate them into two, the larger bill in one pocket and then smaller bill in another pocket. That's what I do when I go out. And then just when I pay something, I know I'm giving them smaller amount, a smaller denomination bill to a vendor, because you can easily mistaken the 200,000 with the 50,000, or you can easily mistaken the 10,000 with the 100,000. It's pretty common that tourists would end up giving the vendor, shop owners, the wrong denomination. Okay, so check before you hand out your bill. Okay, especially the 500,000. You don't want to give this out thinking that it's you don't want to give this out thinking that it's 100,000 or 10,000. So or 20,000, because it look very similar, right? And another point to note is the feature to note is that the bigger the bill, the size of the paper is larger. The larger denomination, money, the size of the larger denomination is bigger than the smaller denomination. So if you compare the 10,000 with the 500,000, the 10,000 is much smaller, it's shorter. It's shorter, and it's, the larger denomination is wider. It's much wider. See? So even a blind person, there are a lot of blind people, Vietnamese here. Even a blind person would know how much each one is by the feel of the money. Okay. Well, you need to know that, because when you go to club, let's say you go to club, you have money in your pocket, and the club is dark. You want to make sure you hand out the right amount. So you gotta learn or try to feel the money, and then try to practice yourself feeling the money in the dark, so that way you handing out a smaller amount instead of a larger amount. But like I say, if you separate the larger bill from the smaller denomination bills, or in your pocket, separate them in two different pockets, then chances of giving out a larger denomination bill or money will be less. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, the size of it, and so learn to differentiate between a larger denomination with the smaller denomination. Okay, that's it for now. So that's my tip for the day. See you next time. Video is a short clip of a transaction I did with the vendor. So I was using Vietnamese Đồng to pay her or that person. Okay, here it is. $90.